Well, good morning. That is the division bell, and that means we are live in the Politico Pub. I'm Dan Bloom, the political editor in the UK for Politico. I'm with Katie Lamb, Shadow Home Office Minister and Tory Whip, and Emilio Casalicio, who has taken a short break from toiling over Playbook PM for about 1 million hours a week to be here. So we're doing Playbook Live. So that means we're going to talk about the kind of big stories of the day, the big themes of the day, and get your take on all of it, Katie.
Great.
More. So we should jump right in, really, shouldn't we? The economy is a big day.
Yep.
The borders were the big day yesterday. We've kind of handbrake turned from one to the other. What's the thing connecting them together?
Well, I think the theme of the whole conference is stronger borders, stronger economy. And I think that there's a sense that, and I agree with this, that we have to have a very strong set of policies on the border. I think that that's kind of table stakes. But to actually take the country forward into the future, to have something to be excited about and to hope for, then we have to start talking about the economy and strengthening the economy, because the economy's in a really tough spot, and it has been for quite some time.
And is it a case, can I ask whether you have to kind of neutralise the issue on the border first? Obviously, Luke Shaw from More in Common, he says that really the only way the Tories could potentially win back support is on the economy. But obviously the border issue is a massive issue that you kind of need to get past you before you can talk about that. Is that what's going on?
I think it's also the case that because immigration has been so high in a way that I described before as being democratically illegitimate, nobody ever voted for this, it also then becomes an input into every subsequent conversation that you need to have. So you can't have a conversation about housing shortage unless you have a conversation about immigration. You can't have a conversation about the welfare bill unless you had a conversation about the fact that 1 in 6 people on universal credit isn't British. So I think it's also just that it's a necessary condition to then have a load of subsequent conversations to have had the immigration conversation.
A bit of a question about the numbers today. So I'm going to go to Emilio first.
Well, so, we're interested in this thing about, obviously you're talking about welfare cuts, and the fact that migrants would have less access to benefits, but obviously we have a lot of settled status EU citizens already here.
Yes.
It seems like they have or haven't been factored into the numbers. It's not very clear because the Tories aren't giving us the maths, basically. So do they definitely add up, these numbers?
So the way that EU settled status works is it operates sort of in parallel to indefinite leave to remain. Indefinite leave to remain is the thing that's easier to fix. There is, I think, some debate or you would have to look again at the withdrawal agreement in order to deal with EU settled status. My understanding was that the numbers were without, but I wouldn't want to bet my life on it.
Okay.
I won't make you try and do all the fag packet maths. Not that I'm suggesting it's fag packet maths.
No.
Could you look at the withdrawal agreement to consider bringing those people in as well, or are you saying that those people are definitely?
I don't know if that is party policy, but my personal view is that we should.
You should exclude settled status from welfare.
That's my view.
Okay.
Yeah. My view is that all state support should only be for citizens.
Okay. Even if those people have already been promised all of those rights.
Yeah, because I think that the circumstances essentially have changed in that the volume is so much higher than anybody thought that it was going to be. If you take something like the health and social care visa, which is the most extreme example of this, I think the projections from the Department for Health and Social Care was 6,000 people a year. 600,000 people came on that visa over 3 years. So it turns out that we just can't afford a lot of this. And I think it's really wrong to decide that, oh, well, because of something that we said that was conditional on a number of other things a few years ago, that the British people who never voted for this level of immigration are going to be saddled with hundreds of billions of pounds to pay in benefits and in state support.
Do you buy the argument that some people with settled status should kind of have that undone or should not be in the country, or is it just about paying benefits?
Are you talking about EU settled status, or are you talking about indefinite leave to remain?
Well, it's two different things. I think we were talking about settled status with welfare, but
EU settled status with welfare,
yeah. So for EU settled status, again, even to look at that, you would have to go back to the withdrawal agreement. And I'm not sure whether that is currently our commitment, although, as I say, I personally would be happy to do that. I think with everybody who is in Britain who isn't a British citizen, I think the whole point of having a status like EUSS or indefinite leave to remain is is that is still a live conversation. You know, if somebody is entitled to everything that comes with being a British citizen, then they should make the choice to become a British citizen. If they don't want to do that, then the entitlements are up for discussion.
So you'd be up for kind of you think we should not pay benefits to people either with indefinite leave to remain or settled status, basically until the point that they become a citizen?
Yes. Yeah, and certainly for indefinite leave to remain, as I say, because of the withdrawal agreement for EUSS, for EU settled status, it's a bit more complicated. But for indefinite leave to remain, that's already party policy. We proposed several amendments earlier in the spring to the Borders Bill saying this, that indefinite leave to remain wouldn't entitle you to benefits. And if you applied for benefits, then that would effectively void your indefinite leave to remain status and you'd have to leave.
Can I ask about the borders stuff that was announced yesterday?
Yes.
It's big policy. It's branded as like an ICE-style policy. Like, do you think that the US has kind of got the right balance on this? It's obviously a deliberate use of ICE, isn't it? Do you think they're doing it about right?
I think what they have managed to do in the US is massively ramp up numbers and capacity, which I think was very difficult to do. So from what I understand about what the administration has done to, I suppose, support with other law enforcement agencies, ICE, it sounds like has very sensibly been used as a template for how you would upscale what we would call immigration enforcement, which I think is now going to be called the returns force. And I think it makes a lot of sense to look at where people have done things in other countries and learn from that. Whether it would look and feel exactly the same, I think is a different question. But the sheer question of can you upscale capacity of an enforcement force to make sure that many more people can leave the country, I think the US is a good example of that.
And I mean, overall, you're talking about people didn't vote for this, and you guys need to rethink how all this is done. Obviously, you worked in Downing Street under Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister who oversaw this massive rise in immigration. You also worked in the Home Office. Did you see that wave coming? Did you try to say anything to try and prevent it?
No. So when I was in Number 10, which was 19 to 21, this wasn't happening. In fact, 2020, for obvious reasons, is the only year where net migration has been less than 100,000 people since 1997. And then I subsequently also worked in the Home Office, although when I was there, I worked in national security. But what I did observe when I was in the Home Office from colleagues who were working on migration and just from how the Home Secretary worked is the whole of Cabinet really is orientated towards more people. So, the Education Secretary wants more students and the Health and Social Care Secretary wants more people to come and work in the NHS and in social care, and the Farming Secretary and all of the economic and business departments. And it really is just the Home Secretary who is a voice for not pulling the more people lever. So I did observe that, but no, in the time, certainly in the time that I was in Number 10, immigration was actually unusually low, but that was mostly to do with the pandemic.
So your record is clear on the Boris wave front?
Well, I think in the end, if you weren't a member of Parliament over that period of time and you didn't sort of vote for anything and you weren't in the government as a minister, then those decisions are not yours to make.
Well, I mean, one person who was in Parliament and was a minister is the current Shadow Home Secretary.
Yeah.
Is that a problem that you have somebody in such a prominent position who was in the department, which was overseeing this, what you now consider as a failure? I mean, every time we write Playbook, basically, whenever Chris Philps says anything about immigration, we get to say, well, he oversaw all of this and he didn't do anything about it at the time. Is that a problem to have those people in those kinds of positions? It's
a balance, because it also means Chris, as Shadow Home Secretary, having been both Immigration Minister and Policing Minister, is exceptionally knowledgeable about how the system actually works. And so I think is in almost a unique position within the party to be drafting Shadow Home Office policy, because he's actually seen it and in many cases railed against it. But of course that happens a lot when we're in the Commons, is the government will kind of throw that back at us.
But I mean, would it not make sense to give somebody the job that has a cleaner record on this issue?
I mean, these are very much decisions above my pay grade, but I think that Chris is doing a brilliant job.
Can I ask you a trivial question?
Yeah, they're my favourite kind.
Who's your favourite person to have worked under? Boris, Suella, Chris Philp, Dominic Cummings, who's...
So I worked for Boris in Number 10. I worked for Suella in the Home Office, sort of via Rishi. So Rishi asked me to go and work in the Home Office. And I also worked for Alok Sharma in the business department. Don't make me choose a favourite child.
That's like a wide range of the Conservative Party.
Yes, yeah. And I enjoyed working for all of them. And actually all of them were very sort of supportive and empowering bosses. I really enjoyed working on national security. So I remember my time working for Suella with a sort of particular interest and affection.
Did being in the Home Office kind of radicalise you? Have you changed
No. I held my views pretty firmly on the way in, and I held them firmly on the way out. It didn't make much of a difference, apart from actually topical on the ECHR, which I can't say I spent a huge amount of time thinking about before I went to go and work in the Home Office. And the number of, because I did national security, because of my level of security clearance, I did all the most contentious deportations, which was heavily but not exclusively terrorists, and then our most serious organised and sex criminals. And the number of people that we couldn't remove from this country because of the ECHR, essentially within a week or something, I was like, this is not tenable.
There's a serious point on this about the electoral politics of it, because we're from just down the road from each other. You're Weald of Kent MP. There's quite a lot of like Lib Demi sentiment around the kind of Tunbridge Wells end of Kent.
Yeah.
Have you basically given up on getting those voters back?
Absolutely not. So the Lib Dem Conservative switchers in the 2024 election, their most important issue is immigration. And if you believe, as I believe, that being a member of the ECHR is and will always remain a practical barrier to maintaining the border in the way that the public wants us to, then that is as important for those voters as it is for Conservative and for Reform voters. All three of those groups, Conservative voters 2024, Conservative Reform switchers 2024, Conservative Lib Dem switchers 2024, immigration is their top issue by some distance.
But do you not worry that you're potentially kind of overcorrecting almost for some of those people? They might be concerned about immigration, but the extent to which you guys are going for it is quite serious. And also on the climate stuff, for example, they're very climate concerned. You guys are talking about scrapping the Climate Change Act, etc. There are various fronts on which potentially those voters might be squeamish about coming back.
In the end, I'm almost kind of willfully naive about this. In the end, all that you can do in politics is be honest. And if the truth is, certainly as you see it, we cannot resolve the issue that we have with our borders within the ECHR, and we cannot meaningfully grow the economy within the confines of the Climate Change Act, then we've got to be honest about that. And clearly, of course, is what we do. How you pitch that and sell that is politics. But in the end, if you can't tell the underlying truth, then you don't really deserve to be in the business that we're in.
Have you had your former employer, Alok, texting you about this climate change?
I haven't actually, no. But as I'm sure you know and are alluding to, he ran COP. Yeah. And look, there are lots of people. The party, as we know, is a broad church, and there are lots of people who feel very strongly about all of these issues, as they should, because they're important issues for our country. Do
you remember he cried at the end of COP? I think when the deal was agreed, were those tears all for nothing?
Well, no, I suspect a lot of it was relief, having got something on the table. But the UK carbon emissions have, if you look at it on a graph, have fallen very steadily. I think halved since the beginning of the 1990s. So it's not like we haven't done a lot in this area. Where if you look on a graph, the UK looks like this and China looks like that, basically. So unfortunately, we haven't been able to set an example that the rest of the world wants to follow, not least because we've made our energy so expensive that decarbonising doesn't look very attractive to most other countries on the face of the earth, and so they're choosing not to do it. And we have to react to that. A bit like I was saying about immigration, we have to actually deal with reality as we live in it, and respond to where things haven't worked. And I think that both of those things are major things that haven't worked.
Can I ask you a question about you?
Yeah.
There's a Guardian profile of you out in the last few days that says just next Tory leader, question
mark. Yeah, I have seen that.
People who knew you before you were an MP, as one of them described you as literally the most ambitious person I've ever met. Like, do you want to, one day, have that job of Tory leader?
I mean, it's such a naff, obvious answer, isn't it? But I am very, very ambitious for the country. I really, really think that this country that I love is in a really tough spot and has been in a tough spot for quite a while. And the reason that I do what I do and I'm dedicating my career and life to turning it around is because I believe that we can do a lot better than this. And that's what's important to me.
Is there a kind of Katie Lamb analogy for the ball becoming free at the back of the scrum? Or
No.
The understudy,
there's no rugby or cricket or I don't know what else they play, Eton Fives analogy for that. That's not how I feel about it at all. I think at the moment, not only is the country in a tough place, but the party's in a tough place. And what's incumbent on all of us is to work really hard to win back trust and credibility with the public. And I think lots of internal posturing does the opposite.
How are you finding the vibe at conference? Because people not really talking to us about putting letters in now, or May might be a bit of a different thing, but there is a little bit of rumbling. There's talk about kind of what could happen in a year's time. Are you picking up any of that? Or?
I actually at conference really haven't been. I feel like people, certainly the people I've spoken to. No, the people that I've spoken to are really pleased to see the policy announcements that have been made, and that I think will continue to be made. It sounds like they've got good stuff coming up today, tomorrow, and I think Wednesday as well. And so this is Kemi Badenoch's first conference, and I think she said herself in was it the Times or everybody's got to hold their nerve. And actually, I think that is broadly the attitude that people have at the moment.
She said that people have the kind of license to say the things that they think. It's not going to be such a tightly restrictive atmosphere on her.
Yeah.
What is the most interesting or the most boundary pushing thing that you think that you would be willing to say at a conference that she might not agree with?
Oh God, I don't know that there is a lot that Kemi and I fundamentally disagree with one another on. So I don't know quite what would qualify me for that. I think before this weekend it probably would have been that I would have said that we absolutely have to leave the ECHR. I can't see, as I said earlier, a sort of viable future within it. But I'm actually not sure now what it would be. I think Kemi and I don't wish to speak for her, but agree on a lot.
And obviously, there's been a whole thing of we're not going to announce policies till 2027 when we've done our reviews, etc., etc. That seems like that's totally change of plan now. I mean, there's lots of policies coming out. Are you guys kind of shitting yourselves about reform, and that's why you're kind of rushing a lot of stuff out quickly?
No, is the short answer. I think that you're right, I think it does feel like there is more policy at this point than maybe a year ago or in November or whenever Kemi became leader might have been anticipated. But I think that is another example of what I was talking about earlier, of responding to the situation that you're in. I think it has become difficult in opposition, having been in government for a long time, to articulate and advocate what it is that you're standing for without it doesn't necessarily need to be super detailed policy, but without some fundamental principles and the logical conclusions from them. So if your fundamental principle is we have to grow the economy, we cannot grow the economy with an energy price at this level, what that logically means is we'll have to repeal the Climate Change Act. And that is then a sort of principle and its immediate practical application that I think a lot of people can get behind.
So there has been an acknowledgement that 2027 was probably a bit slow as a planning point.
I'm not kind of privy to those conversations, so I don't know if it's an explicit acknowledgement, but I would say it feels that way to me, that this is a kind of shift. And for the better, I think.
But I mean, does that not kind of undermine the whole Kemi thing? Her whole thing is, I think about everything in detail before I do anything, right? So
well, a year is still quite a long time. I mean, I think she has thought about a lot of these things in detail. Lord Wolfson's report is 200 pages long, and I think in particular, again, I don't see these discussions, but I think Neil O'Brien taking on the role that he's taken on, he's sort of very, very brilliant, and I think is working very hard on new policy. Has also accelerated that, but I mean, I think it's all totally consistent because it has taken quite a while to arrive at these positions, and I think that they are very well thought through.
The danger here that you're taking a while to arrive at like what you say are much more sensible policy positions than reform. But on the top line of it, you're saying you'll deport 750,000 people over 5 years, and reform are saying sort of similar big numbers. It's completely different policies, but reform got there first. They got there harder. They haven't sort of honed the messaging around like the details of policy, and they might just outflank you.
Well, I think maybe this is the moment for a sporting analogy. I think that within reason, you've got to be pragmatic about who else is kind of on the field. But I think what's really important, particularly if you are, as the Conservative Party is, coming from an election that was the greatest political defeat in modern British history, I think you have to have the humility to kind of rebuild within your own lane. What are the things that we think are right? What is our offering going to be? Rather than being obsessed with any other opposition party, Reform or the Lib Dems, or of course you hold the government to account, because that's fundamentally that is the job of the opposition. But I don't get the sense that there's a sort of obsession with what Reform's doing. I think it is just a case of what do we think is the best set of policies for this country.
We'll go to a question in a sec. I've got one more important one for you.
Yeah.
What's your favourite show tune? You used to be a screenwriter.
Oh, God.
I should say a playwright.
You did five musicals, is that right?
Yes, that is right. There's so many. What do I love? I love The Sound of Music from The Sound of Music. I love The Wizard and I from Wicked. I love No Way from Six. I mean, we could do this for all day. This is my gym playlist, basically.
No way.
How does it go?
I will not be singing.
Oh, come on.
No. It's too early, and I'm already. My diet at conference is basically the only food that I eat is cough sweets, and the only thing that I drink is cough syrup and tea.
That's perfect for singing.
So we've got to be gentle. But No Way is. Have you seen Six? Either of you?
No,
okay, so it's Catherine of Aragon's song.
Okay.
I went to see Six during school half term, which was a mistake because it was just me and my other half and like
100,000 teenage girls. Yeah. I know, I can imagine that.
What about a musical about the current state of the Tory party? Surely it's rife for material. I would say, in showbiz terminology, I don't think that it's box office. Right. For us, I mean, it's a niche audience, but for us it is.
But no, I don't. Not least because they're two totally different parts of my brain. So right. I think I'd have a nervous breakdown if I tried to kind of merge.
Have you stopped writing stuff, or do you still?
I basically have not had any time at all to write since being elected. But I'm always thinking that there will be a time when I'll like settle into the rhythm of what I'm doing, and then I'll be able to write another song.
Chris Philp the musical.
Anything's possible.
Right. Do we have any questions from the room before we go? We have a roving mic. There's one over there. Look at this.
Hi, Hannah White from the Institute for Government.
Hi.
Interested in the announcement from Mel Stride about finding 8 billion of cuts from the civil service under the next Conservative government. Under the last decade of Conservative governments, there were only 2 quarters in which the size of the civil service fell, despite commitments from those governments to cut the size of the civil service. It's obviously for good reasons, around repatriation of things that government had to do from the EU, and choices to do things like increase the number of people processing asylum claims, increase the number of prison officers, and so on. Mm-hmm. I'm interested, though, in what you would like to see a future Conservative government choose that government shouldn't do in order to cut the numbers of civil servants.
Well, I think certainly between, you're right about the last decade, but between 2010 and 2015, I think there was a kind of meaningful rationalisation, we would call it in finance, of the size of the civil service. My view is that there's a mixture of things. There are some major things and then loads and loads of small things. I know that there are sort of structural and HR reasons why this hasn't been done in the past, but I think that there's a lot of duplication of what in a business you would call kind of back office functions across all of the different departments. I really don't see why every department needs its own HR function, needs its own even comms function, which is not necessarily sort of back office, but isn't frontline either. So I think that there's a lot that you could do if government were a business, which obviously it's not, and we shouldn't pretend that it is. It's not kind of perfect parallel. Then there would be a huge amount of kind of synergies that would be available to you from doing that. But I also think that there are lots of things, and this completely exploded during the pandemic, that the government does that it actually just shouldn't be involved with at all. And quite a few of those, I think, are to do with administering regulations that shouldn't exist. I think that there's far too much duplication, particularly where things are outsourced to external bodies. So in general, I think the vast majority of our ALBs and clangos could actually be closed. I think those responsibilities should be absorbed back into the department, which also gives you lots of efficiencies because you don't have people facing off to the ALB and the people in the ALB. You've just got one set of people, fewer of them. But ultimately, my view is that if our public finances are going to be at all sustainable, there are major things that the government is going to have to simply stop doing.
Do you get rid of the Home Office, Press Office, or just the DEFRA one?
Well, I don't think that you need. I don't think you need one for every department. You could just have a central. I mean, there is a central comms office, but what that does is coordinate everybody else. Like, there's a huge amount of in the Home Office when I was there. There were two things in particular that I used to think were just a massive waste of time. And one is almost everything that the Home Office tweets, which is also every single event.
You
so,
that personally.
Show me the person who is waiting for the Home Office to wish them like a happy St. David's Day, right? This person does not exist. So all of that's a total waste of time. But there were also various campaigns that we ran in the Home Office, comms campaigns, that there was no evidence whatsoever had any effect. So like the Enough campaign for targeting men around domestic violence, there's literally no evidence at all that works.
We've probably got 1 more minute for one more very quick question.
You're a woman, and you've been talked up as a future Tory leader. Walking around the conference, you may have seen there's an awful lot of adulation of Margaret Thatcher. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that conference is putting her on such a pedestal?
Well, it's the 100-year anniversary of her birth, so I think it's a particular. It hasn't been like this at conference when I've been here before or since. I am on record as having said that Margaret Thatcher left power before I was born, and whilst I think she was a genius and I think that she saved the country, I don't think that we want to give the impression that we haven't had a new thought or any fresh ideas since I was born. So I think part of being a Conservative, an inherent part of being a Conservative, is celebrating and taking the best of the past and moving it forward into the future. And I think given that it's a big anniversary year for Mrs. Thatcher, I think it's totally fine and appropriate to celebrate her. We just have to make sure that we don't give the impression that that's all that there is.
Who's the next Margaret Thatcher?
I don't think that there is such a thing as the next Margaret Thatcher. I think everybody is Margaret Thatcher wasn't the next X, Y, or Z, right? Who is the next Churchill? Who is the next Disraeli? I think it's a bit, particularly for women, I think it's a bit reductive that everybody has to be the next Margaret Thatcher. I think everybody should just be themselves.
Very good point. Well, thank you very much for coming in, Katie.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
At 10 o'clock we have, remind me, I'm sorry. We have Ben Houchin coming in, the Tees Valley Mayor, being interviewed by Annabelle Dixon. But no, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.